Thank you very much. Good afternoon. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that we are in Treaty 1 territory, the home and traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Innu, and Dakota peoples, and in the national homeland of the Red River Métis. Our drinking water comes from Shoal Lake 40 First Nation in Treaty 3 territory. My name is Ian Mann, and I'm joined via Zoom on the panel today with Ms. Gail Anderson and Mr. Brian Carlin. The assessment department personnel today is Jamie Fougere, and the administrative personnel is Tristan Burdine. We will be hearing applications for revision of the assessment roll in accordance with the Municipal Assessment Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we will limit discussion to those matters. The statements that are made at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matters must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessments of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of the evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that will be mailed or emailed to all of the parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decisions with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or to the Court of King's Bench if the matter pertains to the applications of exemptions from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board's order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the points of appeal with your property to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all of the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after all of the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the Board's decision by registered mail or email as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and will be part of the public record. We will be hearing items 1 through 8 on our docket today. And Mr. Burdine, will you please affirm both the assessor's and the applicant's testimony?
Certainly. Mr. Assessor, please state your full name.
Jamie Fougere.
Do you affirm that the evidence you are about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Applicant, please state your full name.
Harry Wolfreimer.
Do you affirm that the evidence you're about to give at this hearing is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you. We will then turn to number 1 on the docket. That is the street address of 925 Headmaster Row. Mr. Fougere, I would ask that you introduce the property, please, and provide the evidence. I understand, however, that there will be some recommendations made today and that you have some remarks to preface each recommendation for our consideration. But if you can please proceed with the 925 Headmaster Row street address.
For sure. So the address is 925 Headmaster Row. The roll number is 04007197-500. And the original 2025 assessment was $7,271,000. And as mentioned, we do have a recommendation for this property because our methodology and our parameters may differ. It is my suggestion to present the final number verbally instead of with a workup. So as mentioned, the original value was $7,271,000, and we're recommending a value of $6,598,000.
And Mr. Reimer, you've had an opportunity, or you've been in communication with Mr. Fougere?
Yeah, indeed I have, and I can confirm, while we don't have instructions, I'm confirming my agreement with $6,598,000 and ask the Board to order accordingly. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Anderson, have you any questions?
I have no questions, thank you.
Mr. Carlin?
No questions, thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Given what's been said, I'm understanding that Mr. Reimer, you don't have any further submission to make?
I do not. Just ask that the board consider the joint recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That term certainly brings to mind other things that I've been involved in. So if having heard the evidence and the recommendation, then we will conclude this matter and move on to the next matter. Number 2 on the docket is street address 1701 Plessis Road. Mr. Fourgère, could you please introduce this property?
So
and
it's
the evidence.
1701 Plessis Road. The roll number is 09006 030 and the original 2025 assessment was $4,863,000. And because our methodologies and parameters may differ with our joint recommendation, I'm going to present it verbally. I would make the recommendation to a value of $4,517,000.
And once again, Mr. Reimer, have you been made aware of this recommendation?
We have. I've been in communication with Mr. Fougere and confirm our agreement and joint recommendation at $4,517,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlin, have you any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
My only question, I should have asked this last time, is that, Mr. Fourgère, when you indicate as a result of differing methodologies, which is why you're presenting the recommendation verbally, the different methodologies that you're referring to refer to ones that you may have employed and ones that Mr. Reimer, the applicant, may have employed?
Right. So we're in agreement with the final number. With individual parameters, in many cases, I think we've arrived at the number in a different way.
Okay. Fair enough.
And I would confirm that, Mr. Chairman. It's simply a question of getting to the same value with slightly different assumptions.
Great. Thank you very much. And I don't think the assumptions are necessary to put on the record, given that there is an agreement on the final number. That having been said, Mr. Reimer, you don't have any additional submission to make? No evidence to call?
I do not. Just request that the joint recommendation be considered by the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will conclude this matter as well and move on to number 3 on the docket, that being a street address of 1750 Plessis Road. Mr. Fougere.
Right. So the next one here is it has a unit number to start the property title 200-1750 Plessis Road. It may appear differently depending on how it's written. The roll number is 04007194-200. And the original assessed value was for $21,392,000. And again, Mr. Reimer and I have been in communication, and we're presenting these as joint recommendations. However, since our methodology and parameters may differ, we're presenting the final number verbally. So the final number that we would recommend would be for $18,996,000.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, you've been made aware of this recommendation?
I have had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Fougere and ask the board consider the joint recommendation, which I'm also making at $18,996,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, have you any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Carlin?
No questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. I'm assuming, again, for the record, Mr. Reimer, that you don't have any additional submission or evidence to call with respect to this property?
Nothing further. No.
Thank you. In that case, we will conclude this matter and move on to the next matter. I have as a street address of 963 Henderson Highway. Mr. Fougere.
So 963 Henderson Highway, The roll number is 0203025000. The original 2025 assessment was for 24,532,000. Mr. Reimer and I again have been in discussion, and we are in agreement. However, not in agreement on the methodology and parameters, just on the final number. So verbally, I would present the final number as 24,140,000.
And Mr. Reimer.
We can confirm we have had discussions with Mr. Fougere and are jointly recommending 24,140,000 and ask for the board to consider it accordingly. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlin, any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson, questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Again, Mr. Reimer, similar to the last one, I'm going to ask if you have anything further to add or any evidence that we should consider in addition to what we already have.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will conclude this matter and move on to number 5 on the docket, that being the street address of 1441. That's 1441 Henderson Highway. Mr. Fougere.
So 1441 Henderson Highway, the roll number is 04007252 And so the original assessed value was for 24,772,000 for the roll year 2025. And we're proposing a joint recommendation, which is in agreement with the final number. However, not necessarily the methodology or parameters. And that reduction would be to 23,228,000.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, are you aware of this recommendation?
Yes, I've reviewed with Mr. Fougere and are making the joint recommendation at 23,228,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson, have you any questions?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Carlin.
No questions. Thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Mr. Reimer, similar to the last properties, have you anything to add or any evidence to call with respect to 1441 Henderson that we should consider in addition?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. Then we will conclude this matter and move on to number 6 on the docket, that being the street address of 1105 Gateway Road. Mr. Fougere, please.
So 1105 Gateway Road, the roll number is 0400703200. 032,000. And so the original 2025 assessed value was for 8,552,000. And through discussions with Mr. Reimer, we have agreed to the final value, but not necessarily methodology and parameters. And we're proposing a recommendation at 7,182,000.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer, you're aware of this?
I am. I've reviewed the matter with Mr. Fougere and confirm we're making the joint recommendation at 7,182,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlin, have you any questions?
No questions. Thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
I have no questions. Thank you.
And I have no questions. Mr. Reimer, is there anything in addition that you would like to add or any evidence that you'd like to propose or present?
No, thank you.
Okay, then we can conclude this matter and move on to number 7 on the docket. That's the street address of 1100 Concordia Avenue. And I note that there are 3 classifications here, one being exempt, one school tax exempt, and one taxable. Mr. Fougere, can you please introduce this property and present your evidence?
Sure. So the street address is 1100 Concordia Avenue. The roll number is 020-611-91000. And the total assessed value for 2025 is $7,748,000, and that is broken out with a taxable portion of $6,597,000, an exempt portion of $623,000, a school tax exempt portion of $528,000. And through our discussion, we've agreed on final values, however, not the methodology and parameters used to get there, but just the final value. And that would be a final value of $6,536,000. And that's broken out by class code this way. The 60T taxable portion, $5,969,000. The 40E fully exempt portion, $324,000. And the 40S school tax exempt portion being $243,000.
Mr. Fougere, could I just get you to repeat the first portion value of that, please?
Sure. So the taxable portion, the 60T, is $5,969,000.
Perfect. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Reimer. Do you have any questions?
We can confirm our agreement with the figures as presented by Mr. Fougere. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Anderson.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Mr. Carlin, questions?
No questions, thanks.
The only question I have is with respect to the percentages. The calculation, Mr. Fougere, is not dependent on the percentages as presented in the initial assessment, but are representative of the rental amounts or the income approach with respect to differing rental amounts for the S and the school tax exempt and the fully exempt. Is that correct?
That's exactly correct. It's not based on a percentage of the overall. It's just
Right.
based on the rental rates and the market information that we've applied.
Thank you very much. That I just wanted to confirm that for my own notes and edification. Mr. Reimer, do you have any evidence to present?
Nothing further.
Thank you. Then we will conclude that matter and move to the last item on the docket, that being 1111 Monroe. Mr. Fougere, I don't know why I'm having such difficulty with that address, but would you please present your brief?
Oh, I'm glad you went first because now it's my turn to give it a try. Quadruple 1 Monroe Avenue. I don't know how to, whichever is better, but the roll number is 02050945500. And the original 2025 assessed value is $8,433,000. And through discussions with Mr. Reimer, we've agreed to the final value of $7,914,000. Again, our methodology and parameters may differ, but the final value, we're in agreement.
Thank you, Mr. Reimer.
We can confirm the joint recommendation at the value of $7,914,000. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Carlin, have you any questions?
Nope, no questions, thank you.
Ms. Anderson?
Questions. Thank you.
And I don't have any questions. Mr. Reimer, have you any additional evidence to present or anything you'd like to summarize with?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. That being the case, we will conclude this matter as well. Having heard all of the matters, we can now adjourn the hearing. Thank you, gentlemen, for your cooperation together and for the presentation to the board and your time today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you, and you as well.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.
Thank you.